that energy and you attract that.
Yeah.
And that's literally, you just see more evidence of that. Like, oh my goodness, so much evidence of that. And when you change the station in your mind, when you change the narrative just a little bit, and you create a different reality, something different that you choose to focus on, suddenly you have a completely different experience. And you can take that energy with you and have that energy affect the way that you are doing your work, the way you're interacting with people, the way you're seeing opportunity around you. And suddenly, whoa, you actually do feel that you are accomplishing what you want. You're starting to attract different experiences. You're starting to connect the dots in your own life in a different way. But it goes back to that place that we were talking about, personal responsibility. That when you stop blaming, when you stop connecting to your narrative that's holding you back, you create a new narrative, which drives you forward and paves this new path where you're like, whoa, life can be this game, a game that I can win, that I'm actually meant to win. And it does start with that specificity of, what does my soul desire? How do I want to feel? Not what are the things that I want to achieve, or what home do I want to have, and the car that I want to drive, and how much money in my bank account, but what is really going to make me happy? What's going to give me a deep satisfaction or put me in service? And in the process of wishBEADS, and I'm so excited to send you some and have you go through the experience, it begins with a guided visualization where you are invited to imagine a moment where everything feels just right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing this moment. So again, it's interpreting what is that definition of happiness, satisfaction. For you, it may be, having that street taco and a cold Coca-Cola, in Mexico, in Baja, and then everything feels just right. That's your moment. And, let's say that you visualize that prior to you starting, this other company, and that would then become your life. But it's a moment where, you can kind of bend time in a way and then get curious about, well, what does that look like? So for me, one of the moments that when I'm leading guided visualizations quite a lot, but when I get quiet in that experience, this moment comes up of a very quiet moment of a home in nature. And I see it over and over again, this very specific place. Do I have that right now? I live in Santa Monica, and while it's quite beautiful, it's not what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, I go, ooh, what is that feeling? That feeling is nature. That feeling is a cup of tea and a great book. That feeling is sitting on the couch and my dog is like an arm's length away. I'm going to create that feeling for myself right now, in my home right now, because there's a message that says that my body needs that, to do less and accomplish more, to do less and just be in the present moment. So there's a message there for me.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that my goal with wishBEADS is really to teach people how powerful they really are right now already to create the life they deserve for themselves. That's really what's going on. It looks on the outside, it's a jewelry company, but it's not really.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about that because, look, I've been reading self-help, motivational, all these wonderful books my entire life. And oftentimes you read them and you're done with it. You put it back down and you don't practice what's in the book because we feel like, is positive thinking really going to put me in a different place? Is that really a real thing? Getting up in the morning and writing down the things I'm grateful for. Is that a real thing? And not until I'm 51 this year, not until the last 2 years did I realize how powerful those tools are. And it's more about getting your mind into a place of acceptance and openness to things that come your way. As you talk about, driving, if everybody's a terrible driver, you're going to feel that. Whereas if you look at, if you take the opposite approach with that or any other topic, your mind is really open to and being a powerful tool to bring things to you that benefit you in a way that you're talking about. How would you describe that to our listeners? Because I struggle with it sometimes. Like I said, even though I've been reading the books my whole life, only the last couple of years have I seen the real value of that. How do you describe that to people and convince people that this is where you need to be in your head?
I think in a way you have to try it. You have to be able to take that leap of faith and really step back and say, what is the voice inside of me that is holding me back from not even trying, you know? And in a world in which the narrative is so negative, like that is the clickbait, that is the marketing. Like, you know, my father-in-law actually many years ago worked for Roger Ailes. And he is I would say the kingpin of discovering of the power of, if someone is giving a talk, this is what my father-in-law said, that he remembers Roger Ailes having this aha moment, where he said, if someone is sharing a speech on a stage, and someone then on the far side of the stage falls off the stage, everybody in the audience looks at the person who fell off. That was the beginning of the change of how we talk about the news. The sensationalist, kind of overwhelmingly negative, like get the eyeballs. Because for whatever reason, in the wiring of the human spirit, we just are sucked into that kind of negative drama-rama. And he capitalized on it and built Fox News. And this really was like the whole new movement of changing what we are focusing on. So it is so normal to us that we actually believe that is the only way. And those of us who believe in positive thoughts and saying yes in personal development and the value of that have often wondered, what would it look like as a society if we promoted just good news, like a lot of good news? Yeah. You have to be aware of what's happening in the world. You can't be naive. Don't get me wrong. But the pervasive notion of negative, fear, that while it is absolutely, it sucks you in, what would it look like if you just had the awareness to be in the present moment and say, nope, I'm just going to give it a pause. I'm going to see what's going on here. So to your question, if you are someone who is in that place where you're just like watching your thoughts a little bit, hearing what we're talking about, and there's a bigger voice in your head that says, that doesn't work. That's okay for them. They're just lucky. They're just blah, blah, blah. Whatever that voice is that's keeping you stuck and stopped, let's detach from it for a moment. Just shut it down. And you and I both know that we have those voices of criticism, your inner critic that is stopping you, that's filling you with fear and doubt and whatever. But I will tell you, there has been more times than maybe, more than a handful of times that I've actually said out loud, stop it, to that voice. Stop it. Yeah. I'm not going to listen to that. I'm just like, shut up, because I need the quiet to see what my other choices are. And I think that is really, if you become aware, you then realize that there is a space on which you have all the knowledge that you need. This is what Eckhart Tolle talks about, the power of now. That presence is where we all can tap into that divine energy, that sort of birth energy, that thing that we are all, the light, all of that. And we need to realize that it's available to us all the time if we just realize that we have choices, and there are choices. Nobody can take it away. And wishBEADS, I will tell you, this downloaded moment came from two different experiences in my life. People say, where did this idea come from? The first was, there was a craft fair that I went to in Italy, and I came across a woman who was making crafts out of paper and fabric, and it was rolled and glued. And wishBEADS actually began as a paper bead experience where you're writing your wish on paper, rolling it up, gluing it, and wearing it, creating paper beads with your wishes inside. That was one experience. But the second experience, the night before I had this download, I was doing a workshop at my local homeless women's shelter. And I was teaching these women who are transitioning out of homelessness, these brave women, and we were talking about the power of positive thoughts. And I was teaching them energy muscle testing, and I was saying, look, wherever you are in a hard place I can't even imagine. I have lived a life of grace and privileges with my challenges, but nothing compared to what these women are facing. And I said that. I said, but in any given moment, as you are, changing your life, as you are working towards these goals, you have the opportunity to see something in your world that brings you joy. And it can be, we live in beautiful Southern California. It could be a flower, the sunset, a person's smile. You could anything. And that energy, tapping into that energy, will shift you and move you in the direction of feeling more supported, more grateful, more connected. It'll just give you that little like Popeye spinach, if you will.
Yeah.
And negative thoughts, which I showed them through energy muscle testing, is like Superman's kryptonite. It just weakens you. And so I said, no matter where you are, and these women are really talking about, basic safety, basic, survival. That's what we talked about. And so the next day to have wishBEADS come to me, it was like, oh yeah, this is where we can, another tool where if you are seeing and visualizing, and I went back into these women once I had this idea and I showed them this paper bead experience, and I went ahead and I guided them to seeing themselves in their future homes. What does it feel like? What does it, what's in your home? And they wrote that down and then rolled it up and glued it. Now they had a visual reminder. So when they felt knocked down, when they felt like the world was against them or people were ignoring them, they could look at their wrists and think, wow, this is what I'm working towards. I'm working towards that studio apartment where, I have a beautiful plant on my table and, something specific. And that's what drives me as an entrepreneur, figuring out, as you well know, when you really have a concept, then there's all of the work to actually make it a reality. Hello, you're holding your intention so strongly as you are navigating all of the things that you actually have to do in life, the action steps that you need to take, because there inevitably will be more and more challenges. So that anchoring piece that's carrying you through the challenges is really what is giving you energy to stay clear and calm and committed.
I love that you call it the anchor piece, because I think we all need some great anchors in our lives, and it sounds like a wonderful tool. A moment ago you spoke about putting positive in, and you talked about the news and stuff like that. I realized I cut news out of my life a couple years ago. I'm not oblivious to what's happening out there. I do touch base once in a while via the news, but I realized it was really bringing me down. And I've been on this quest the last year to only put positive in my brain, meaning I'm trying to watch be careful what I watch on TV or what movies I go to or what I listen to, because when you're constantly beat up with the negativity, I found that it was bringing me down a little bit. Really, it was more the news than anything else, but I took it to the extreme. Like, I really want to be careful with what I put in my mind. And I love what you're doing, because it allows you to be open to that positive or that goal or that brings you back to your happy place instead of the negativity that's out there.
Yeah, and I think that we all deserve to have our wishes come true, and you deserve to even think that you can have your wish come true, or what is your wish. And I will tell you that many women that I know, when they see the experience of wishBEADS, they quickly go to, oh, I want to wish for my child. I want to wish for my such and such. I want to wish for somebody else. And I said, the only rule that I say is that this wish is for you. And it's your time because when we are full, there's actually, I'm sure you know Lisa Nichols, and she's a wonderful motivational speaker and teacher by her own right. Mm-hmm. But I heard her speak not too long ago, and she talks about feeding others from our saucer, meaning that your cup is so full, it overflows, and you feed others and you give others from your saucer. And I thought, wow, yeah, that is really about the gift of having your wishes come true and being so full that you have the energy to give. And that when we give from our own well, our own cup, sometimes we get so depleted, and that's when we start to feel resentful, or we need other people's approval, or all of that sort of like, look at me, am I doing a good job? Like sort of waiting, like looking for something outside of yourself. And I say, know thyself. Like if you need all of that positive energy, that's what fills your cup. So you overflow so that you never feel depleted. You're just giving from your overflow. And I think that when people realize that you don't need anybody's permission to do that, you just have to make some choices. That goes back to that personal accountability. And so I'm like you, very, very aware of when I take in news, but I also make choices like I don't drink. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do anything, because I believe that for me, and I know you're in the business of alcohol.
I'm like, I drink a little bit.
So I know, no judgment of that, please. But I know myself. I
Yeah.
know myself, the energy that was required for me to fulfill what I